Shazam?
Peacemaker. What a joke.
I'm nobody. I came because I have no choice. I came to save my home and the people that I love.
Truth, justice,
the American way.
I'm vengeance.
Hello and welcome back to Elseworlds, a DC fan podcast. Who would have thought that I would be recording this episode a few days after the last episode I did? So what, Saturday I recorded Black Adam review. Sunday I released it, like late Sunday night or whatever. And what day was it? Tuesday. Well, Monday, we had Henry Cavill release a video on Instagram saying, like, hey, thanks, everyone. Go see Black Adam. I'm back. And he seemed to be hinting that he was back as Superman for more than just that. And I'm pretty sure he used those words. But anyway, Tuesday, we got, on the Marvel side of stuff, we got Guardians of the Galaxy, the holiday special trailer by James Gunn. And about 4 hours later or so, we got this article that just dropped that said James Gunn and Peter Safran are the new co-CEOs of DC Studios. So before it was called DC Films, they're changing the name to DC Studios. And yeah, James Gunn and Peter Safran are tapped as co-chairmen and co-CEOs of DC Studios, which is a newly created production entity that will oversee DC properties for Warner Bros. Discovery. Here is the statement from Gunn and Safran. We're honored to be stewards of these DC characters we've loved since we were children. We look forward to collaborating with the most talented writers, directors, and actors in the world to create an integrated, multi-layered universe that still allows for the individual expression of the artists involved. Our commitment to Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Harley Quinn, and the rest of the DC stable of characters is only equaled by our commitment to the wonder of human possibility these characters represent. We're excited to invigorate the theatrical experience around the world as we tell some of the biggest, most beautiful, and grandest stories ever told. We're especially enthusiastic doing all of this with Mike, Pam, Casey, Channing, and the whole Warner Brothers Discovery team, and are grateful to David Zaslav, whose bold vision to the future of the franchise we share and allows for this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Most of all, we can't wait to bring you all into the story of the DCU. So if you don't know, originally it was called the DCEU, the DC Extended Universe. Some people were trying to, I guess they want to do DCCU, the DC Cinematic Universe. Sounds like they're just going to go with DC Universe, or the D standing for DC and the C standing for Cinematic. Who knows? But I'm assuming just DCU. That's what James Gunn and Peter Safran said. So it seems like maybe that is what is going to be called going forward. So this was shocking, right? I don't know anybody that expected this. And I was just talking about it in the Black Adam one as we were catching up on some news from previously, right? And how they had somebody in place and then they left and they're still looking for someone. And never in my wildest dreams did I think James Gunn and Peter Safran are going to head this studio. And the reason why this works so well is James Gunn. People will be like, well, he's a director, he's a writer. When is he going to know how is he going to know how to run a studio? He doesn't need to. Peter Safran needs to know how to do that, and he's a producer, and he's produced things like Aquaman, Shazam, Black Adam, and Suicide Squad, the Suicide Squad with James Gunn. And he was also James Gunn's former manager at one point. So that is something that is truly incredible, I think, about all of this, is that you have somebody on the creative end now who has worked with Marvel and worked with DC, but he also knows what he didn't like when he was working with both of those things. He can alleviate some of that on filmmakers that come through DC going forward. They now also have somebody that knows the business side of things, but also is well respected and worked on the biggest DC hit, Aquaman, their first ever $1 billion film in the DCEU, or now the DCU, right? So this is incredible. Now, Joker 2 is not falling underneath of their stuff, so you don't have to worry about that. The Matt Reeves stuff, I'm assuming, is not going to be underneath James Gunn either. I'm thinking James Gunn and Peter Safran are working on the cinematic universe, working on building up this thing to compete with Marvel. Now, they may not be able to compete with Marvel the way others want them to, or that like a big challenger. I mean, Marvel has such a head start at this point. But Gunn's worked with both. And one thing I think that really works with this is that James Gunn really, for people that are worried he's not going to respect what came before, he already has. So let me break this down for you just a little bit more here. There was a time when he was doing the Suicide Squad sequel. The Suicide Squad, not Suicide. Okay, 2021 Suicide Squad. All right, that's going to be easier. But he's doing the movie. And what he said is that WB gave him full control. He could have killed Harley. He could have recasted Harley. He could have recasted any of the characters. He didn't. It didn't have to be set in the universe, apparently. And that's mind-blowing, right? Yes, they had a rough start after Man of Steel. Once they got to BVS, Batman vs. Superman, they had a rough start, right? On building this cinematic universe. And it all came crashing down a year after BVS when Justice League came out. But the interesting thing with that is how quickly they want it to give up. How quickly they want it to give up. And I'm going to mention this as another example for something in a little bit too. But Marvel doesn't give up, right? Thor: The Dark World was horrendously received in the fan base. And Thor didn't have a great image from the first film. I love the first Thor. Thor: The Dark World's okay, but at that point, Thor was not a huge hero in fans' minds. It's like, okay, Avengers he was fun in, right? And then, okay, we got to see him in Age of Ultron, but he still didn't really do much. He kind of left and did his own thing for a bit. And people, I think, were kind of down on Thor, right? But what happened with that afterwards, right, is that we had Taika Waititi come in and do Thor Ragnarok, and it rehabilitated Thor's image. It made him super popular. It made him funny. There was a course correction here. That's all they had to do. They didn't have to burn it all down. And in fact, with Aquaman doing so well, and Wonder Woman doing so well, there's a reason why they kind of kept going down that path. But they didn't have to do this huge course correction where they're like, we're not going to bring Henry Cavill back. We're not going to even reference some of this stuff. Marvel even was able to rehabilitate the Dark World's reception by... They leaned on it in Endgame. It's one of the places they go to in the time heist. There was things that they were able to do with that when people did not like that movie. And I was just thinking, why didn't DC just do that? Right? Why didn't DC just make a good movie afterwards? A good Justice League film, or just a good Superman film? But, you know, you have to build the goodwill somehow. And they go out there, and when you're letting Gunn just kind of do whatever he wants, if it was somebody that wasn't respectful to it, the universe probably ends there. But he acknowledged what comes before. There's references to the original Suicide Squad in his Suicide Squad movie. We see Boomer, we see Rick Flag, we see Harley, and we see that they've worked together before. We have the fact that originally people thought Idris Elba was coming in to play a recasted Will Smith Deadshot. That doesn't happen. He plays Bloodsport. And we start to build out this universe. He brings in all these different characters instead. And yes, he kills some of them off. People upset he killed Boomerang. Suicide Squad, you're going to kill some people off. But what he did in that movie, The Suicide Squad, is he really nailed the characterizations. He made us care about a character called Ratcatcher 2. He made us care about Peacemaker. And launched a whole show off of that, which is probably the best superhero show of 2022. He was also able to make us care about, like, Polka Dot Man. A punch bag of jokes. Polka Dot Man. And now here we go into that. He kept intact some of that stuff. And in Peacemaker, he brings in Aquaman. He brings in the Flash. Ezra Miller and Jason Momoa came in and did a scene. They had somebody that looked like Ben Affleck, and somebody that looked like Gal Gadot, and somebody that looked like Henry Cavill, because he couldn't get those, as stand-ins for that Justice League scene in Peacemaker. He didn't have to do that. We now learned he didn't have to do that. And the fact that he mentions Harley Quinn along with those big five characters makes me think we're not done with, Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. We're not done with these iterations characters. And the fact that this Superman Henry Cavill stuff came out the day before this news broke makes me think James is fine with that. James is going to bring back Henry Cavill. James is going to allow this universe to continue. They're going to probably pick what they like and drop what they don't like. But for all the people that don't like James Gunn because they're Zack Snyder fans, James Gunn is friends with Zack Snyder. One of the first movies that I think Zack Snyder directed, what is that franchise called? Zombie movie. One of the zombie movies. All right? I'm blanking on the name right now. Was written by James Gunn. So they have a history. They're friends. It doesn't mean that he's coming back. It doesn't mean he's not coming back. I'm just saying they're friendly. It doesn't matter. We have Henry Cavill announce that he's coming back. People thinking The Rock are not happy with this. The Rock probably knew about this. The Rock said they were getting close to finding somebody last week. Well, guess what? He probably knew, and it wasn't announced yet. Their contract starts November 1st, so I'm recording this on the 27th. That's right around the corner. And he's going to be finishing up Guardians Holiday Special and Guardians Volume 3 while he does so. So we're going to have the head, or co-head, of DC Studios on a press tour for Marvel Studios Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. That's fun. That's fun. I don't care who you are. That's fun. He's going to get questions about DC stuff while he's touring for Marvel, and I wonder if he's going to be able to answer those. Kevin Feige answered a question on the Black Panther thing, saying, Black Panther premiere, saying, he's looking forward to seeing what James done. He'll be first in line. So, congrats to James Gunn. He's going to be great. Not everything is going to be a James Gunn film. With Peter Safran still being able to do the day-to-day money stuff, James Gunn, it says in the press release, is still going to be directing stuff, still going to be directing movies. He's going to do Peacemaker. He was in talks for another film anyway. That was probably set up with this stuff in mind. So, being able to have those two share the load is going to be great. But what it also means is he's somebody that really loved having freedom in doing the Suicide Squad. He loved having freedom for Guardians Volume 2 and 3. I'd tell you right now, he's probably going to be very hands-off. He's probably going to take some great meetings with people, and if he likes what they're saying, if he likes the idea, if he likes the pitch, he's probably going to give them some carte blanche to do what they need to do to tell that story that they pitched him. Doesn't mean there won't be creative differences at times, I'm sure, but James is a filmmaker. He knows what he liked about working with Marvel, what he liked working about with DC, and what he didn't like about working with either of those. And he's going to probably be able to take that. And I heard somebody else say this earlier too, but this is what really helps DC and WB a lot. And why this helps them a lot is after the Batgirl cancellation, many people anonymously were saying, we don't want to work with them. If a movie I make can just get canned, when it's done, I don't want to work with them. Well, you're going to have one of the most respected writers, directors of James Gunn. You're going to have one of the most respected producers. People are going to line up to start pitching stuff to these two and get a job. So that'll kind of smooth that over. I'm sure of it. I'm sure that smooths it over. But I'm excited. James Gunn is one of my favorites. Look, The Suicide Squad is my favorite DC film in this DCU. And his Guardians 1 and 2 are in the top of my Marvel rankings as well. So I am stupidly excited. Peacemaker was such a fun surprise this year. It is up there for one of the best shows of 2022 for me. Probably, if I have to rank them, go Severance and then Peacemaker. And House of Dragon, Rings of Power stuff. But yeah, he nailed it with Peacemaker. We've talked about it on this show earlier this year with Jack Seepersod. But what I would say is I'm really excited. Now, the bad thing is it's a 4-year deal. 4-year deal, 2026. I'm sure it can be re-upped, and I'm sure it will be re-upped depending on how they do, but that's really only a few films we're guaranteed to get at this point because of how long it takes to get this stuff rolling. But I am pumped. I am super excited about James Gunn becoming co-head of DC Studios, and he's going to bring a lot of good. I really think that. And I know we've said that with some of the other structures that have happened with DC, where we're like, oh, we finally got it now. Yes. Jeff Johns with John Berg or whatever, right? Like, we've nailed it this time. We didn't nail it. I think this time we did. And I know it's almost a bit boy cries wolf, right? But I guess we'll see. Now, that's not where this episode ends right now. We have some Green Lantern news, by the way. Yes, I'm going to talk some Green Lantern. This was a series that was in the works for quite a bit. They announced this thing years ago. Well, Greg Berlanti's Green Lantern HBO Max series is being redeveloped, and it loses its writer. This is from Hollywood Reporter yesterday, the 26th. So we had that string of good news and then a little bit of bad news, depending on how you think of it. I think this might be good news. Now, it's been in the works since late 2019 and was originally supposed to focus on numerous Green Lanterns over the course of numerous timelines. And it was going to be helmed by Seth Grahame-Smith, who is the writer and showrunner. Well, it was originally going to focus on Alan Scott and Guy Gardner, along with some others. Now it is going to be redeveloped and focused on John Stewart, one of the most popular Green Lanterns, and the Green Lantern I grew up with was John Stewart, so I'm very excited about this. Now, part of it is to slash the budget. Look, when we're talking about David Zaslav, know that budget is top of mind when he's making some of these decisions. And part of the tax write-off that they've been doing is that they had 8 completed scripts and they were supposed to film soon. They can just get the tax write-off on that, according to Hollywood Reporter. So that's what they're going to do. Now, Greg Berlanti is still attached to this. He's worked a lot of these DC shows before. But yeah, so... And notably, too, this has nothing to do with the news of James Gunn and Peter Safran. So this had nothing to do with them, because while we focused on James Gunn and Peter Safran getting the film stuff, they're also going to be in charge of TV and animation. But yeah, this had nothing to do with them, and I'm glad they put that in there, because I feel like a day after it, people were, this is a day after that announcement, people would have been like, oh, I see how it is. They're cutting stuff, whatever. But no, this is Zaslav slashing the budget here. Apparently, it was supposed to be $120 million for this budget of a first season, I guess. It's going to be way less than that in this iteration, I'm sure of it. But they had already had cast roles for Alan Scott and Guy Gardner, and those two are probably not returning. But yeah, look, Green Lantern is one of the coolest superheroes in the DC catalog, and the fact that they haven't really gotten much off the ground. 2011, of course, the Ryan Reynolds movie, which I just ordered on Amazon, by the way, because it's been since 2011 since I watched it. I really actually enjoyed it. Sue me. But I did enjoy that film, but I want to see a better film, and I do want to see a better storyline for Green Lantern, and I think the TV show can still work. I know some people are like, well, just give Jon Stewart a film. Let's get him in the shows. Let's start having this show be at the level of Peacemaker, and maybe we can cross these people over. That's what I think. Let's get that happening. And I know it says it has nothing to do with James Gunn, but I think with him coming in, now he might be able to say, hey, while we're redeveloping this, let's make it connect so we can start looping him into films. We can loop him into Peacemaker, or we can loop him into, the rest of the DCU going forward. Why have this closed off thing? And if we do it with Jon Stewart, instead of having 2 or 3 or 5 of these Green Lanterns in the previous show that's all taken up in this one show, we can have Jon Stewart in the show. We can maybe see Hal Jordan or Alan Scott or Guy Gardner in one of the films as well, and we can build this Green Lantern universe out. If you're not familiar with Green Lantern, there's the reason why I just mentioned so many names. There's a lot of Green Lanterns. So that is something. It's almost like Nova Corps, right? In Marvel, but so this is something that can kind of get built out, and maybe it can be its own little cosmic thing for a little bit. But I'm assuming maybe with it switching to Jon Stewart, it's going to focus more on Earth if they're trying to slash budget. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited for it. More Green Lantern is always great, so I'm down with that. Well, also what came out yesterday was an interview with Henry Cavill. So like I said, he put out a video on Monday. And this is from Hollywood Reporter. Henry Cavill says he never gave up hope that he would play Superman again someday. Yet even he was surprised how emotional the experience was when he finally put the cape back on. So he was working 6 days a week on The Witcher when a deal came together for him to do the one scene in Black Adam. This is an interview with MTV's Josh Horowitz, it looks like, on Wednesday that this happened. He had to get permission from the Witcher team, but the actor said it was so top secret he couldn't even tell them why. So then he arrived at WB Studio in the UK for the shoot, and he was able to choose what outfit he wore. He put on the 2013 Man of Steel, and he said he chose that one because of the nostalgia attached to the suit. It was incredibly important to me to be standing there, enjoying the moment. That is one of the top moments of my career. It feels great to have an opportunity to wear it again. He said that his scene in Black Adam is a small taste of things to come. And yeah, so he said he was very excited about James Gunn hiring and joked about the rumors he was going to appear in Loki. If you don't remember this, if you didn't hear this, there's rumors he was being signed by Marvel. He joked about it. He said that if Gunn can jump back and forth between Marvel and DC, that he perhaps could too. But apparently, sources have told Hollywood Reporter that WB is currently taking pitches from writers for a sequel to Man of Steel. And Henry Cavill said right now he can't share anything, but in time I'll be able to share, and everyone will hear all the exciting things to come. So, really excited about that. I think Henry Cavill was a great Superman. I think maybe his films weren't popular or received well, but I don't think that has anything to do with Henry Cavill. I think Henry Cavill is perfect as Superman. I can't think of anybody that we could cast right now that would fit Superman better at this point. I mean, Tyler Hoechlin for the TV show Superman and Lois is great too. But I mean, if we're not resetting the continuity or anything and we're just going to keep going, then Henry Cavill's great. And it gives him a chance to be a more hopeful Superman, which is another thing he mentioned that he wants to be able to be going forward. So I am excited about that. Superman is supposed to inspire hope. He is supposed to be the best of us, right? I just rewatched Smallville. I feel like they nailed that a lot in the character. Superman and Lois have nailed it as well. It's time for the movie to nail it. And I'm very excited to see what they can come up with. And look, I'm not going to say this is for sure happening, but with James Gunn, he pitched last year for a crossover with Marvel. Now he's the head of studios, and Kevin Feige's a friend of his. Can they make that happen? What would that be? I don't know. It probably wouldn't have much story to it, but I freaking love the comic of DC versus the Marvel comics and from the 90s. I thought that was a lot of fun. But I don't know what they would do with that. I know James Gunn, when he pitched that, it was like a Harley Quinn and Groot story, which I think would be fun as well. But it's like, how do you get these characters in the same universe? How do you do this? Is it canon to both universes, or is it just a fun one-off? I think you just do a fun one-off if you can get everybody on board. But I'm sure the lawyers will have things to say about that as well. Okay. But just don't rule it out. We're not ruling it out. You could also get, I saw somebody, Dan Slott, who writes for Spider-Man, the comics, was saying that he tweeted a picture of Scooby-Doo Batman team up from the cartoons and said, come on, James, like, we're one step closer to this being a reality now. And the joke there is that James Gunn wrote the Scooby-Doo films, the live-action films, and is now in charge of DC. So yeah, let's do it. Let's do Scooby-Doo meets Batman in live action. Why not? Okay, that'll wrap up this episode of this big news of the DC studio changes, Superman, more confirmation of that, the Green Lantern news, fun stuff going on at DC. It's making me more hopeful, of course. So looking forward to that. If you want to give us an email, elseworldsdcfan@gmail.com, Twitter @elseworldsdcfan. I post a lot of like comics I picked up or merchandise I get there. Facebook.com/elseworldsdcfan. So those are where you can reach out to us. Our Instagram is elseworldsdcfan as well. So you can reach us all there or follow us there. Give us any sort of feedback. Rate and review on Apple and Spotify. But yeah, so thank you all for watching or listening to the podcast here. And I hope everyone has a great rest of their week. We'll catch you next time. I'm not sure what we'll be talking about next, but probably a little bit of a hiatus from this because nothing else is really out right now, but we'll see. Have a great rest of your week. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.